What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another review. This time for Resident Evil, the Netflix series. In particular, we're going to be reviewing the last episode. I know I skipped some episodes on reviews, but we're going to talk about it here. But this is mainly going to be the review for season 1, episode 8, called Revelations. And it's cool because it says the same title, Revelations, as you know, it's the same title of one of the, I think it started out as a Nintendo 3DS game. Then it got ported over to the main consoles. But yes, I like how the titles too has is references to the games and the lore, but what I like about this episode is fleshes out. It gives you the show doesn't really. The thing I like is that the show doesn't really give you a clear cut who's the main antagonist. At first, you think it's one person, then then slowly it turns to be this person, but then you find out also it's this person, and that's due to because the way how they tell their story, they end two different timelines. They tell from the perspective of the girls in the past in 2022, and the girls in 2046 or whatever in the future. So, let me give you a synopsis, and then I'm gonna tell you what I mean. With Umbrella forces closing in, Jay encourages the use of a monstrous weapon. Teenage Jay enlists Simon on a fateful mission into Umbrella's HQ. So, one of the things I like about this show is Evelyn. Now we know, for what you know, Evelyn was the main antagonist in Resident Evil 7, and here in the show, Netflix show, it's just that. You know, the character Evelyn in the Netflix series that's the only thing. That's the only connection she has to the game, is that she shares the same name as she said the same name as the character Evelyn from Resident Evil 7. Here, she's more like. She's Evelyn in name, but she's also a mix of a Sela Gione from Resident Evil 5. She's like a mixture of the two characters, whereas instead of they don't actually mix the personalities. Like, she doesn't have like the personality of Evelyn from the games, but she has more of a personality of a Sela. But that's what I mean, like, they mixed the personality of a Sela with the name of Evelyn. So that's what I mean by the mixture of the two. And she was a character that I really didn't think I was going to like, but then she grew on me. And eventually she became a decent character, especially what she does in this episode. Basically, picking up from Parasite, if you've seen it, things are getting down to the nitty gritty. Things have been revealed. Well, I will say, since I haven't done the review for the other episodes, I will say that you do eventually find out the greater way how this connects to the show, and that you do get that they do answer the question of how is Whisker still alive. Now, if you have not seen my other videos, or if you don't really know anything about the Netflix version of Resident Evil, this takes place in an alternate reality, an alternate version of the games, meaning this show takes place within the continuity of Resident Evil, the video game series, but it tells a different story. It tells its own story that's connected to the video games. So in other words, from Resident Evil 1, every game from Resident Evil 1 up until Resident Evil 8 is canon to this show. But the show itself is not actually canon to the video games we play because of the different history. As the producers and stuff said, this Resident Evil show takes place in an alternate version of events. That's how they able to have Whisker still be in the and be in the shows, because in this universe there's all minor alterations to the history that we know. Though the history that we know still exists within this universe, it happens just a little slightly different. And that's mainly when it comes to Whisker. Whisker and his story and his origin and his show basically is the deviation from the main universe of where the games take place, and the fact that how he's able to be alive, and even he knows himself about the events of Resident Evil 5. Because they obviously they're not going to say Resident Evil 5, but they do make reference to the year that Resident Evil 5 takes place and the fact that he dies in a volcano. So they know that it happens. And I do appreciate that we do eventually get to see, not in Revelations, the episode I'm reviewing, but we do get to see in the series the trench coat wearing midnight, I think it's called the midnight suit Whisker. But we do get to see the Whisker with the trench coat and the outfit from Resident Evil 5 in this series. The Revelations basically is about the fact that Jay has to come to terms with both past and present. They come with the revelations of things that they have found out. The revelation about their father, Wesker, about themselves, and the parts they play into the future of the world. And they tell a good story here as they go up against what you could consider the main antagonist. It's two different antagonists. You got it's a different person who's the antagonist in the present timeline of 2046, and then you got the antagonist of 2022. And them going up against that person wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I was expecting to say that one of my problems is how they was doing Whisker, but then I think I said it in my last video that I was gonna have to wait and see and watch the rest of the episodes to see how it shakes out, and I pretty much did. That's what I had to do. I pretty much had to watch the rest of the episodes, and I realized that there was a reason why Wesker seemed like he was evil. That they had an evil Wesker. He was evil, but then he was trying to be a good person here. And then once you figure out the truth and how he's alive still to this day, even though they even acknowledge in this show that he died in a volcano, aka your final boss fight in Resident Evil 5. They basically, they acknowledge that, here, and they reveal that. I think that's in, I want to say it's episode 4 or 5 that they reveal that piece of tidbit. But yeah, this show does connect to the games heavily. They even have 4 other than the zombies, they have 4 other creatures, 4 other known, prominent creatures from the Resident Evil games that appear in here. That appear in the show. One of them appears in this episode, Revelations, and I think they alluded to this creature in the previous 2 episodes, but in Revelations you see it is all of its glory, and it's the one creature that we haven't seen. It's a boss character creature that we haven't seen in both live action movies, and both the original series and the reboot series. This is the first time in live action history that you see this particular creature, but it is not though it shares the look of the creature and it gives you the scope and size of the same creature. It's the creature from this particular Resident Evil game, but it's something different about it. You have to watch the show to understand what I mean. There's a lot of other creatures in here, and like I said, it's 3 other creatures from that they feature in this show. They actually made reference to Resident Evil 4 with Dr. Salvador. For those who don't know, Dr. Salvador is the real name of an enemy type from Resident Evil 4, just named the Chainsaw Man. And if you know your Resident Evil 4 lore, you know that the Chainsaw Man, the game calls him 2 different names. They call him the Chainsaw Man. I think the official guidebook or something called him the Chainsaw Man, but in the actual game, in the game, his name is Dr. Salvador, and they make a reference to his character, and he's the one character that it was cool to see. But they all, just like the creature I mentioned in Revelations, he's not the actual. I guess he's Dr. Salvador in spirit, if you will. And you'll see what I mean when you see the show. You'll see how I mean that it's Dr. Salvador or the Chainsaw Man in spirit, but not the actual Chainsaw Man, because that's pretty much the only reference they made to Resident Evil 4 is his character. Other than that, they mostly stick to Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, because both of them take place in Raccoon City. So they mostly stick to those logics. Other than Albert Wesker, in this episode Revelations, there is another character that gets referenced, and that's towards the end of this episode. They do reference another major character, a playable character at that. In this episode Revelations, though you don't get to see this person, but they do via Albert Wesker. This person gets referenced. And that should help you find out who this person is. You only think there's only one person other than Chris who's tied to Albert Wesker. Other than that, the Revelations pretty much dealt with it finished the cycle of sisterhood and parenthood, and the show in the whole was just about being the cycle of being parents, teaching your kids, and then your kids eventually just becoming you and repeating your mistakes, and trying to overcome that. And that's basically what this show did. That's where Revelation saw Jay break that cycle. This episode itself is crazy. I mean, the things you see in this episode, the things that happen in the episode, oh man, it gets tense. I can see this show going. They do set up for a season 2. I can see this going to season 2. Excuse me, I had to burp right there. But yeah, season 2. Yeah, I can see that. But I can't see it going beyond. Obviously we have to see how season 2 shake out. But it's only so much story you can pull from if you're going to keep continuing. Because what made this show great is that it doesn't change the lore of the Resident Evil series to make it so work. This show worked because it takes the lore and it tells you that even in this universe, everything that happened in the video games has happened in this universe with minor alterations, and thus, it also paid, with the world ending and stuff, that paid homage to the original Resident Evil film series, where in that series the world basically ended as well. But you know, with sexual minus alteration, this show basically builds on the existing knowledge and lore of Resident Evil up until this point. And you know, they made reference to some characters from some games and stuff too. And that's the one of the best things. I guess the only thing I could say was pacing. If anything, pacing was like the major problem, and not in every episode, but it was mostly, but it was there only because you had two different timelines that coincide with each other. Because you're telling the story from one timeline, and in the same episode, you're telling the story from a different timeline, and sometimes the majority of the episode would take place in one timeline, then shift to the other. So pacing was basically an issue. Was going to be an issue. And I think that's the only issue I have with it was pacing. So with that being said, Revelations gets a 10. No, you know what? I was about to say 10 out of 10. I meant to say 9 out of 10 big ups. The only reason why I didn't get a 10 out of 10 because of the pacing issue. But other than that, everything else was good. It was going to get another point deducted. I will say that. It would have got an 8. But that was only going to be for like if they never really answered the Wesker stuff. But once I watched it and they did answer the stuff about Wesker and you know how it connects more to the games, I was like, okay, you know what, my concerns is lifted. I'm not going to take a point from that. But it only gets a point for it. It wasn't going to get another one for Evelyn, but they made me like her towards the end, so they squeaked out with that one. But other than that, yeah, the only problem was pacing. That's bound to happen when you tell a story like this, where one story takes place in 2022, the other part takes place in the future of 2046. So when you tell stories like that, yeah, there's gonna be some pacing issues. But other than that, the show is good. I recommend you guys check it out if you haven't. And if you enjoyed, like I said, 9 out of 10 big up, just because I didn't say before. And if you enjoyed this review, you hit this button right there in the upper right corner for all my reviews. And if you enjoyed this video so much, you want to support the channel, all you gotta do is hit that like, subscribe, share, hit that notification button, hit that thanks button, and hit that join button if you want to see all of mine, or if you want to see me react to your favorite TV shows and copyrighted trailers and video game gameplays. And as always, hit you on these videos for more of my amazing content, but don't go anywhere. The reactions are on their way up next. Peace out.